What's up? What's up? I know, terrible, but what's up, everybody? What's up, Fight Hype family, boxing fans around the world? Here from the illustrious, elaborate, cutting-edge technology studios in Las Vegas, Nevada for Fight Hype Live. Once again, your man Sean Zittel holding it down with the Z-Cap, and wasn't like we had a whole lot of big fights over the weekend. We did have a title fight with Bernardo Lopez, and we had a showbox where Ramon Cardenas pulled off a second-round knockout upset. But since we didn't have any huge fights over the weekend, we'll do what we do here at Fight Hype. We will recycle. We will recycle. We will talk about Crawford and Spence some more because we didn't talk about it enough for 5 or 6 years before it finally happened. And we'll talk about Canelo Charlo. We'll use it in the headlines and then cover everything else in boxing because that's how that works. So, what's up, Troy Allen? What's up, Jesus M? Ojefe says, y'all are always pushing the goalposts for Bud. So, what is going on, everyone? Eduardo Chavez, how are you doing? William Zepeda versus Murataya, says Jesus M. We will get to William Zepeda. That's right, William Zepeda. I called that fight with my wife here in the office, and he won by 6th-round knockout. So, Zepeda got a knockout. Ramon Cardenas on the Showbox main event Friday got a knockout in an upset. And then Bernardo Lopez with the biggest win of the weekend defending his title. But that's not what gets people to come. What gets people to come is the big names like Crawford and Spence and Canelo and Charlo. So we'll begin there. So let's see. Let's get right to it. So the title of the video is Crawford sabotaging Spence rematch? Is he sabotaging the rematch? We will see. If he is, I don't care. I'm down to watch Crawford Spence 2 on a Saturday night. Go down to the arena and cover it. There's a lot worse things you could do in life than watching those two fight again. I'm down. It's not like I hate it, but if Terence is sabotaging the rematch, it's not a duck. He already beat Spence as handily as you could beat a man the first time around. I understand if you're Errol Spence and you're Errol Spence fans. Your argument is, well, Spence could have fought Thurman. He wound up, being vehement, going to Al Heyman saying, no, I want this fight. It's this fight or bust for me. So he stuck his neck out there. He got the fight done, and he comes up with the L while Crawford gets his crowning moment that makes him an all-time great, solidifies his career. But Spence didn't do that without holding Crawford out at bay for 5 years before deciding ultimately, okay, now let's do it. So it's not that cut and dry on Spence's side. You did hold him off for 4 or 5 years before finally going to Heyman and saying, let's make it happen. So it's not as simple as you snapped your fingers, you did everything you could to make the fight, and now he doesn't want to fight you. It was, well, you were okay with not fighting him for almost a half decade, then you fought him. Crawford wins. Now, the part about it that's not cool on Crawford's part is Crawford said right there and then in the T-Mobile, I was there along with the rest of the media, he was asked about a rematch, and he said 147 pounds was getting hard for him to make. So he'd have no problem having the rematch at 154. His own words, to paraphrase, were, Spence gave me the opportunity, so I'd be a man of my word and give him the opportunity. That is where you could criticize him. But ultimately, even if he kind of goes back on his word, I'm okay with it, more or less, because Spence could make this second fight more competitive, but there's very slim chances he wins it. I pretty much saw what I needed to see in fight number 1. So if Crawford is sabotaging this rematch, I'm not here to call him a ducker. I'm not here to cry over it. Plus, this isn't even official. Let's go ahead, chat, and take a look at why we're even discussing this. Crawford's good friend and stablemate, teammate, basically, Steven Soul Cold Nelson, cool guy, fights out of Omaha like at super middleweight like Terence. And this is the tweets that got everybody's attention. So to pause and read, all the people out here spreading false narratives, Bud is offering Errol a fight at 147. If he doesn't take it, which we're hoping he doesn't because it's a waste of time, Bud wants to go and do something that's never been done before and move up 3 weight classes and beat Canelo. then he'll fight Charlo at 168 for undisputed. Everything has strategy behind it, meaning if Charlo beats Canelo. I think here's the quote I was talking about. He said definitely doesn't have to be at 47 is the quote.
I'm in a hurt business. 47 is kind of hard for me too. I was already talking about moving up the rank and challenging Charlo. So 54 would be outreach of anything.
So there you go. That was Crawford right after the fight. People have the right to change their minds. That's their right. But he did say after that first fight, July 29th, 147 is hard for you. Heard the quotes yourself. It could definitely not have to happen at 47. 47's been getting tough for me to make. I've been planning on moving up in weight anyways. Crawford maybe changed his mind. Maybe he didn't. Steven Nelson is definitely close enough to Crawford to where if he says something about Terence Crawford, it deserves to be listened to. You got to open your ears up and take a listen. But what he says isn't set in stone. You know, he's not Terence Crawford's manager. He's not Terence Crawford. I mean, Terence Crawford is practically his own manager. You know, he's the boss of calling the shots more so than anybody else in Team Crawford. So this isn't official. For all we know, Steven Nelson is just tweeting and telling you what Terence was saying that day. You know, he might have just got done talking with Terence, and Terence was saying, fuck that. The rematch has happened at 47 or no rematch, you know. But then when push comes to shove and phone calls are really taken and money's really presented, he'll go ahead and take the Spence rematch. So we'll see. This isn't official by any means. But again, I'm cool with it. If they want to fight again, sure, I'll cover it. I don't expect it to be that much different the second time. I don't think a whole lot of people outside of hardcore Errol Spence fans are expecting anything that different a second time around. But I'm cool with it because you guys that join me on these lives have been knowing what fight I want to see. I know that the best fight in the world at 147 is Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis. Now, the problem is, why would Terence Crawford take that fight? Jaron Ennis has never been a world champion, and he's not a non-world champion like Ryan Garcia who sells a whole lot of tickets, can make a big pay-per-view fight, right? He's very high risk, low reward. Actually, technically, no reward. He doesn't bring a belt. He's not some future Hall of Famer. He doesn't bring a huge social media following contingent upon young people, kids and girls and women and mainstream people that don't even watch boxing like Ryan Garcia. So I get it. So the conundrum for someone like me is, you want to see this fight because you know boxing and you know it's the best fight at 147 in the world, in the sport. But why Terence Crawford has no good reason to fight this man Ennis? Well, maybe I'm slowly getting closer to my wish, because Crawford has said no to Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman, said bye-bye. You guys didn't want to fight me when it made sense. Now that I'm the big dog who presents you the biggest check, now you want to have my name in your mouth, right? Before you wanted to act like I didn't exist. I totally get where Terence is coming from. Like the Spence rematch, I don't really want to see Danny Garcia or Keith Thurman anyways. Terence beats them. Terence beats Spence in a rematch, right? So he's closed the door to Danny and Thurman. If what Steven Nelson is saying right now holds true, Crawford stays on that, and he's not going to fight Spence because Spence can't get down to 47. He's effectively shutting off every avenue but Boots, Charlo, and Canelo. And Canelo's probably going to beat Charlo, so Charlo won't be coming down to win or lose. Charlo's not going back down to 54, I think, because he's going to put on 14 pounds of muscle. And I don't know, maybe he gets back down to 54, but I feel like there's a solid chance he's never returning to that weight class, win or lose. So Charlo's not the easiest fight for him to make. And why would you want to make it if he loses, like most people think he will, and he's not going to get back down to 54? And even if he does get back down to 54, he's not undisputed anymore. Zoo's going to have one of the 4 belts. And so what Crawford really wants is Canelo. He wants Canelo. Of course he wants Canelo. There's a lot to gain for Canelo, for Crawford. Not a whole lot to gain for Canelo. It's a little bit like Crawford's situation with Boots. Different, because Crawford's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Boots hasn't proven anything. So even if Canelo beats a man 21 pounds smaller, he's still beating an undefeated Hall of Famer. That still will count for something. but it's Canelo taking more of the risk. It's Canelo, if he loses, you lost to a guy who used to be a lightweight, and you lose control of this being your era. The post-Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, it's mostly been, if you had to pick one defining guy, the Canelo era, he gives that up if he loses to Crawford. It's Crawford. Crawford takes that from him. So it makes sense for Crawford, but I don't know if Canelo's that entertaining, is that excited about a Crawford fight. So if all Crawford really wants is Canelo, but Canelo's not that enticed by it, and he doesn't want to fight Danny or Thurman, and the Spence rematch has to happen at welterweight, and it can't happen at 54, and now you're allowing us to go, oh, so you still can make welterweight. Well, while we got you there, and you don't want to fight Danny Garcia, and you don't want to fight Keith Thurman, and Errol Spence can't get back down there, but while we got you there, and Canelo's not interested in fighting you yet, how about this Ennis fight? How about this Boots Ennis fight? That's what I'm selfishly kind of hoping happens, is that Canelo's tied up, he's busy with Charlo, whatever his second fight with PBC is, and ultimately his plan for a big risky fight is Benavidez at 68. He's not interested in Crawford. And then if Charlo can't get back down to 54, maybe by process of elimination, my dream comes true and we see the modern day James Toney, Mike McCallum fight. We see Crawford and Boots Ennis at 147. But barring that, I don't know. I still think there's a good chance this rematch happens. It's a lot of money on the table for both guys. Even if the pay-per-view does 60% as well as the first one, that's still 10 million plus to go around for both fighters. Crawford, it's not a super dangerous fight. He took care of business the first time, so it could potentially be another easy payday for Crawford. For Spence, obviously he's going to want it. He just wants it at a weight where he feel he could really compete at his best at. So we'll see. But, to cap off the point, if Crawford does pull a Beastie Boys, if he does sabotage this rematch by putting it at a weight he said he probably wasn't going to put it at the first time, so that then I don't hate it. I'm not calling it a duck. I'll call it sabotage, but I won't call it a duck. He already beat Errol Spence. He's already proven himself as the best welterweight. If he doesn't fight Jaron Ennis, I won't even call it a duck, because of I'm objective enough that no matter how bad I want to see it, I can grasp that Boots hasn't done anything to make it a must-see fight, a fight where if you don't take it, people will bring it up for the rest of your career. It's not at that point yet. Ennis, through kind of poor management at 26 years old, hasn't had the opportunities, hasn't been able to have the challenges and the opportunities in front of him to get by them and put himself in a position where it's a must-have fight against Crawford. So that's where we're at. If Crawford sabotages it, whatever. Not that mad at him for it. Not mad at him at all for it, actually. I just hope he accidentally backs himself into a corner where the Ennis fight is the only fight that can make sense. I don't know about that. He wants Canelo, and he should want Canelo. That's the one that'll elevate him in an all-time ranking so much more. He's already an all-time great, first ballot Hall of Famer. He has this unique legacy at welterweight where he's won he has a unique legacy at welterweight where every single fight he's had at welterweight has been a title fight from the jump, from fighting Horn for the WBO, and he's won every single fight and they're all title fights, all by knockout. That's very special accomplishment Crawford has had. But I want to see that Bernard Hopkins, Jermaine Taylor. I want to see the old lion who has nothing to prove, who's undisputed, give the young 26-year-old a chance anyways, just because he's that dude, just because he's built that way, and he'll give the young guy a shot even when he doesn't need to prove anything. But we'll see. We'll see. Randall Landvigard says, keep your word, blah, blah, blah. I don't respect a man of his word. It happens, man. People change their mind in this sport, in this world. It happens. Sugar Ray Leonard said, are we going to call Sugar Ray, are we going to not respect Sugar Ray Leonard? Sugar Ray Leonard said he'll never fight Marvin Hagler. Had Marvin Hagler pull up ringside at Madison Square Garden for a retirement ceremony where Marvin thought Ray was maybe going to announce a super fight between the two of them, just for him to go, me and Marvin Hagler would be the greatest fight in the history of boxing. And then he looks dead at Marvin Hagler and goes, but unfortunately, it'll never happen. And then he changed his mind. Once Marvin got older, and had a war with Mugabe, had a war with Tommy Hearns, was getting down to 160 for so long. Then he's changed his mind. He made it happen. Sugar Ray changed his mind. Both Sugar Ray Robinson used to change his mind. He used to pull out of fights at the last minute. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Crawford's not the first. He's not the last great fighter who will change his mind. If you don't like it, that's your right. But I wouldn't like it if it was a more competitive first fight, or if there was something in me that really felt like the second fight could be different. But since I don't feel those things, I'm not particularly perturbed if Crawford does this. That's just me. Leonard was a duck. See, if we can call Sugar Ray Leonard a duck, then anybody's a duck. Sugar Ray Leonard might be the best fighter alive. That's still alive. Dead or alive. Or not dead. Sugar Ray Leonard, along with Floyd, Manny, Duran, a couple others maybe, are the best fighters we have all time that are still alive. So we can't call that a duck. How much for my Dreamcast? It is not up for sale. Joey Zaza. What was with this Joey Zaza? Joey Zaza's a pimp. No, he said Barzini's a pimp. Hey, Joey Zaza, up your ass. Hey, Joey. Sorry. I saw the Joey Zaza in the chat and I thought of The Godfather 3. If you know, you know. Remember, he's the guy sitting on the Cadillac in Godfather 3. He's like, hey, Joey Zaza, up your ass. But, sorry, I love it. Anyways, moving on. Let me shout out some people in the chat for a second. Brian T, what's going on? D-Tech, Bloom Major, the Cowboy Troy. Cowboy Troy said Bud doesn't want to fight anybody. He's always overpricing himself, and even when he didn't have the belts, he acted as if he can sell any kind of fight. Well, that's the arrogance of a great champion. Crawford versus Alvarez. Keep your word, says Randall again. All right, so as for the other part of the title, why exactly is Canelo fighting Jermell Charlo? I feel like I talked about this earlier. Mark Klein says another Bud hater. I'm a Bud hater. Bud's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Bud is an all-time great, and Bud does not need to do this rematch with Spence. I don't particularly care if he doesn't. So just calm down. Let's calm down the dick riding, everybody, on both sides. On Spence and Crawford, we're all too grown for this. They already fought. There's nothing to get so worked up about, okay? Come on, let's not do that. But, so yeah, Canelo and Charlo, I feel like the storytelling of this fight, Showtime All Access, right? I watched both episodes. Loved Canelo's stuff with his family. I totally agree. I told you guys, many of my regulars on this live have heard me say, I think Canelo becoming a father to that little girl and getting married, I think it changed him, matured him, made him more approachable, made him more expressive, more open with talking, all kinds of things. Softened him up a little bit in a good way. From the young, in his 20s, macho hotshot, and I like that guy too. Got love for that guy too in his 20s, but I've enjoyed the maturing Canelo who's softened up, becoming a family man, right? And All Access showed that. But besides that, All Access has become an infomercial. All Access was started from Ross Greenberg, who left HBO Sports, HBO Boxing, and he began All Access. And All Access at first was much like 24/7. Pretty good documentaries, pretty good stuff, right? Even if you don't like boxing, it was something someone could watch and enjoy. But over the last couple years, All Access has become an infomercial. I got love for the narrator, Barry Pepper. He was in 25th Hour, one of my favorite movies ever. But man, he is sounding more and more like an infomercial on all these buildups. Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo are two undisputed champions, separated by different countries, different origins, styles, and weight classes. On September 30th, two different men from two different places will meet in the ring where truth is always inevitable. It's like, it's become so cookie cutter and cliche, like Tank. Gervonta Tank Davis is a young upstart from Baltimore with his trainer and coach Calvin Ford, who have made it out of the mean streets in Baltimore. The 3-division champion is a knockout artist who is turning heads. Hector Luis Ryan Garcia, a social media sensation superstar. That's not what sells fights. What sells fights is conflict, tension, drama, telling the human story, making people relatable, not unrelatable, squeaky clean infomercials. That's not what gets it done. Let me get to a super chat real quick before I continue. Jameson Childress, thank you for the super chat, my brother. Said, sending my weekly support. Keep up the great work. Thank you, brother, for the 5. Thank you for the super chat. There was another super chat I missed. Let me see it earlier on. Molly Mall. Shout out to my man, Molly Mall, always in the chat. Molly Mall says, Canelo beats Bud and Benavidez. He's in greatest of all time talks. Yeah, I guess so. Greatest of all time. I don't know. Even with those 2 wins, he would definitely be the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. He'd be flirting with top 10 all-time pound for pound. That's something I'd have to sink my teeth into, Molly Mall. But I actually wouldn't be surprised if both of them could get the better of Canelo. But they got to prove it. Canelo has put in so much work. He fights usually so much more active the last couple years than other champions do, that it's not on eye test alone that makes me say Canelo's the guy in the post-Floyd Mayweather era. Because if it was just eye test, I might give it to Andre Ward or Terence Crawford or even right now, Inoue, it might even be a little bit eye test greater than Canelo has ever looked. But Canelo's a great fighter in his own right based off the eye test. Great reflexes, deceptive hand speed, great punching power, one of the best defenses in boxing the last 10, 20 years. And then he's been much more active and has all those weight classes and accomplishments behind him to back him up. But despite that, I would maybe favor even Bud if he moved up 21 pounds, did the old Victor Conte strength program, did the Canelo strength program where you carry, the Manny Pacquiao strength program where you carry up 20 pounds of muscle and punch even harder or just as hard as you always did and take punches just as well as you always did. I would maybe favor Bud over Canelo if he could carry the weight up properly. And then Benavidez, I would give him the edge over Canelo because his youth and his work rate and his size. But if Canelo could get past both of them, that would be incredible. And maybe he could. But those guys would have to prove it in the ring against Canelo. So anyways, back to what I was saying about the story of Canelo, Charlo, and those infomercials not telling the truth. So Gervonta, right, when he has an all access, if it was back in the day of HBO, they would show the clips of him putting his hands on women. They would show you his mugshot. They would show all that because that's all, first of all, it's the truth. And the truth will always set us free. The truth is always more interesting than a lie, than an infomercial, than fluff, right? And that's all these all accesses have become, is fluff, basically. With some nuggets of interesting moments, but and they would have shown all that not to drag Gervonta through the mud, not to showcase a young black man getting in trouble with law to perpetuate that stereotype, but because the truth is so much more interesting than fiction. The real truth of a Gervonta All Access would be highlighting that and then giving it context, pointing out this kid came up in foster homes with no dad and all that. He still managed to make a good do great for himself in life, and he has this coach who's kept him from the edges of real trouble, kept him out of serious trouble, and allow him to become a champion and accomplish his dreams. That's a lot more enticing and riveting than Gervonta Davis from the mean streets of Baltimore and Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo. No, man, get a little gritty. Like the best movies, like Goodfellas, like Boys in the Hood, they get gritty. They give you the real. And that's not to vilify someone, or don't vilify, don't glorify. Give people the real. And I think that would be a lot more riveting, and you'd get a lot more people who genuinely like you or genuinely hate you, but they genuinely feel something one way or the other instead of just being, all right, this is Gervonta Davis and he fights next month. This is Canelo and Jermell and they fight next month. The story that they're missing out on with Canelo and Jermell, and by the way, the real story with Gervonta would be, can this super talented fighter, this great young fighter, achieve his greatness without letting the bullshit outside of the ring and his demons that he's come up with get the better of him? That's the real story. And will he fight the best? Or will he be content with just being the biggest star, but not the best fighter, with not proving he's the best fighter? That's the real story. That's the tension. That's the conflict that makes it interesting, in my opinion. So, and then as for Canelo and Jermell, the real story there, and what's up, Arthur Holzer? I will get right to the super chat about Xander Zayas in one moment, just going to finish this point. And with Canelo and Charlo, the real story isn't just Jermell Charlo is undisputed, Canelo is undisputed, and two great fighters are going to face each other September 30th. There's no story there. Why? The story is there was a time where Canelo took a picture with the two Charlo brothers and he looked like the little guy. But ironic, funny enough, as fate would have it, 8 years later, all anybody's talking about is Charlo's the little guy. Charlo's the little guy who's moving up. But if you saw a picture of them 8 to 10 years ago, both Charlo brothers towered over Canelo. And there was a time they were all with Golden Boy together, but that fight was never even discussed. Charlo wasn't a champion until 2016. Canelo was long gone from, Charlo was long gone from Golden Boy by then. But there's a story there. These were guys who wanted to fight Canelo, the Charlo brothers, but didn't ever get the opportunity. Before you knew it, they were with different promoters, different weight classes, different networks, all of that. But there was a time where Charlo was considered much bigger than Canelo. Now Canelo's considered much bigger than Charlo. There's a time they were both with the same promoter. Now they are not. There was a time where Charlo was talking a lot of shit about Canelo, making it seem like he didn't want to fight him or his brother. That, you know what I mean? Cinnamon, where you at, Cinnamon? Where you at, Cinnamon? I know that was Jermell, but Jermell was saying the same stuff alongside his brother in interviews and everything. Now the fight's here, and instead of Charlo being the bigger man talking shit, he's thought of as the smaller man who's not talking shit. And it's Canelo at the media day saying, I didn't forget that. I didn't forget how much you and your brother didn't believe in me and my skills. There's the tension. There's the conflict. Not just an infomercial. So Charlo, who used to tower, still towers over him height-wise, but used to tower physically over Canelo, be the bigger man, is now considered the smaller man. He used to say Canelo was ducking him. Where you at, Cinnamon? Where you at, chomping at the bit? Now he doesn't have so much to say. And now Canelo's considered the bigger man. But Canelo's the one who's made all this freaking money, who's made all this money, has nothing to prove. Charlo should be the hungrier, fresher fighter. But despite that, he's the one at home on All Access, still swimming in the pool with his kids. Canelo, meanwhile, his kids coming to visit him because they've been away from him for a month because he's sacrificing. He's shunning his family to be locked in Tahoe. So there's the tension and the conflict, but it's good stuff. We'll see September 30th. I do look forward to that fight. I do think Charlo is going to be competitive in that fight. A lot of people think Canelo is going to stop Charlo. I don't think so. Charlo fights with a lot of pride. It's not easy to stop a champion with a ton of pride like Charlo, and a guy like Charlo who has good legs, to where if Canelo does get him in trouble, say Canelo hurts him, say Canelo drops him later in the fight, some point in the fight, Charlo can survive. He has the physicality, he's big, moving up, and he has the legs to move around, to get himself out of harm's way, to make Canelo reset his feet and maybe not get him out of there. So, and if Canelo, I've been saying for weeks, if Canelo gets tired in this fight, Charlo can sense that halfway through the fight, step on the gas and pull off the upset. But he is going to probably need Canelo to tire sooner than later. So we'll see. But I got a super chat to get through from Arthur Holzer. Says, I kind of want to know your thoughts on Xander Zayas. My eyes open up because of what I'm about to say from the rest of the chat. I kind of want to know your thoughts on Xander Zayas. To me, he's a better Felix Trinidad at the moment. Calm down. Slow down, Arthur. Thank you for the super chat. But the eye test he gives me is potential pound-for-pound material in the next 5 years. Well, to be fair to you, Trinidad had a good jab, but he always threw it with such power, like a shotgun jab, that he would get out-jabbed by great jabbers like De La Hoya. Even Fernando Vargas out-jabbed him at times. Trinidad had a great jab, but he really only threw it at one speed, trying to hurt you with it, rather than taking something off of it, measuring with it, fast, and then touching, bink. And, he didn't change speeds on it. He always was Trinidad, boom, throwing everything like a bomb with mean intentions, even the jab. Zayas began to show a really I love Zayas' jab, he began to show a jab. Miguel Cotto had a better jab than Felix Trinidad. Trinidad was better than Cotto, but Cotto had a better jab than Trinidad. Cotto kind of moved around the ring better than Trinidad too. Could get up on his toes and move around. He could do that better than Trinidad too. But Trinidad was overall better than Cotto. What's interesting about Xander Zayas is he's kind of like a midpoint between Cotto and Trinidad, at least in personality, maybe in style too a little bit, but in personality, right? On one side of the spectrum, here's Miguel Cotto. On the other side of the spectrum, here's Felix Trinidad. Felix Trinidad's personality, always exuberant, always beating his chest, Viva Puerto Rico, all that, right? Smiling, beating his chest, exuberant, extrovert. On the other side of the spectrum, Miguel Cotto. You know, very stoic, very monotone, stoic. Doesn't like to talk a whole lot, at least the media. Doesn't like to talk a whole lot. Comes to the ring stoic, stone face, low tone. Trinidad the opposite, exuberant, beating his chest, smiling, always smiling. Xander Zayas is somewhere in the middle. Here's Cotto, here's Trinidad's temperament, here's Xander. Xander has that low tone like Miguel Cotto, but he smiles, he's happy, he's exuberant like Trinidad, but he has that low monotone voice to him like Cotto. He's not all the way extroverted like Trinidad. He can be a shy kid, Xander Zayas, shy, humble kid, kind of like Cotto. So he's a little bit in the middle. He's not as shy, not as low key as Cotto, not as exuberant as Trinidad. Somewhere in the middle. And then stylistically, he leans more towards Cotto. Trinidad was an all-time knockout artist, puncher, a true bona fide knockout artist. Trinidad was a puncher boxer. I won't just call him a slugger because Trinidad had skills. Trinidad had timing. Trinidad could punch hard and was fast. He wasn't slow. Wasn't as fast as De La Hoya. Wasn't as fast as a Mayweather, a De La Hoya, a Pacquiao, a Sugar Ray Leonard. But he was fast in his own right. He was like as fast as a Canelo. He was fast. So he was more like, we all know the boxer puncher. Trinidad was a puncher boxer. Cotto was more of a boxer puncher, at least after he moved up from 140. And that's more what Xander Zayas is turning into, a boxer puncher. And I really loved his jab. I love that defensively he's staying alert, keeping his eyes open. And he punched in between the Mexican fight. I think Valenzuela was his name. He started to counter well. So his jabbing's coming along. His defense is coming along. His ring generalship is coming along. And he's reminding me of Cotto. I think he's definitely Puerto Rico's guy. I think Puerto Rico found their guy. I think he's more like Cotto than Trinidad stylistically. And I loved his jab. I love the improvements I see coming from him. I'm very high on him on him as well. Ruben Torres said he had skills, but De La Hoya did win that fight. I agree. He did win that fight. De La Hoya did win that fight, in my opinion. So yeah, that's what we got on that. So now that we touched on Crawford and Spence, and we talked about Canelo Charlo, why is it happening, more of the storytelling behind it. Also a big reason it's happening, Canelo and Charlo, is Charlo wants to fight on pay-per-view. And as big as that Tim Tszyu fight was, it was a Showtime Championship boxing. It wasn't a pay-per-view. And nothing at 154 pounds short of a star welterweight like Spencer Crawford moving up to 54 was going to give him a pay-per-view. He's 33. He's already been undisputed. All that's left to do is to really make some real mega money and fight on pay-per-view. So he moved up 2 weight classes and he gets the Canelo fight. His brother wasn't able to take it. And then on Canelo's side, why is this fight happening? Because he's not ready to fight David Benavidez just yet for whatever his reasonings are. But in the meantime, while he's not ready to fight, it was kind of like Floyd and Manny. While they weren't ready to fight each other, they still got a pay-per-view to sell. And to sell a pay-per-view, you got to fight credible, good fighters, real opponents. Charlo fits that bill, even though he's 14 pounds smaller. And Charlo, even though it was supposed to be Jermell, the name Charlo is a name that was inevitably supposed to cross paths with Canelo at some point. Everyone since 2015 has felt that way. At some point, you and Charlo got to see each other, Canelo and Charlo. We always thought it would be Jermell. Whatever, turns out it's Jermell. So here we go. And Canelo, for whatever reason, just doesn't want that Benavidez fight just yet. Charlo at 54 couldn't get a pay-per-view fight, so they face each other, and here we are, September 30th. May the best man win. But also over the weekend, we had Venado Lopez, Luis Alberto Lopez. Venado means deer, and I guess he's called the deer because deers leave their feet when they gallop. And this man leaves his feet when he punches sometimes. Venado Lopez, underrated athlete, underrated athleticism. He does things you're not supposed to get away with. He leaves his chin up a lot. But athletic fighters get away with leaving their chin up because they have reflexes and their feet allow them to take steps back, steps out to the side, pivot out. That athleticism is a gift, and it allows you to get away with not always doing textbook stuff, always having the chin tucked and the hands up. You get to be more creative and dynamic if you have more athleticism. And I think with fighters like Venado, because they're Mexican, let's keep it real here and let's not be politically correct. When you get a Mexican who's looked at as a paisa, you don't think athleticism, right? You think he's going to be plodding, take punches, be tough, go to the body. And Navarrete and Venado Lopez, you can't do them dirty like that. They're athletic and rangy. They're rangy. Navarrete, we knew he was rangy. He throws that uppercut on the outside. But then he showed against Valdez, I'm rangy. I know my distance. I know how to use all my height. I can punch from unpredictable angles. You don't know what's coming. I'm not predictable. Same thing with Venado Lopez. Even as a short guy, unlike Navarrete, he's not tall and lanky like Navarrete. He's short, but he's a good athlete. And so he's able to be rangy on the outside and hit you from angles. And then you'll look at the guy, you go, okay, Navarrete, Venado Lopez, his chin's up. He punches a little wide sometimes. I'm going to sharpshoot him with more compact punches, but they punch in combination, and they don't give a fuck. So you're getting ready to catch and shoot, and while you're getting ready to catch and shoot the first wide punch, he's coming up here with another one over here and over here and over here and over here. And you never get that chance to catch and shoot the way you think it looks like on tape because you're worried. You got to worry about the next bomb, and they can both punch hard. So it's not like they're just hitting you with little gnat flies, little, BB gun hits. They hurt. Every punch hurts, and it's making you react. And when punches hurt you, that human instinct is to get defensive. It's not to stay in there and always get in there and bang. So you're over here defending. And what Navarrete and Venado are very good at is if they force you to play defense and not counter, oh shit, let me just get out of the way. What's coming here? Catch, move my head, this, that. Okay, he's done throwing his onslaught, his 7 to 10 punch barrage. Now let me go back and get him. That's when they take that half step back. That step back, they get out of range and they use their legs. And they start making you come forward. And then you come forward for the next 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And then now you're walking into the barrage again. And it's a cycle you just keep repeating. So Venado Lopez and Navarrete, good fighters. Shout out to them. And let's not sleep on let's not stereotype them as just Mexican brawlers. They are unorthodox athletic fighters in their own way, who are rangy on the outside. Tough to beat. Venado Lopez, now, he'll have some problems with Robesi Ramirez because Robesi Ramirez is rangy too. And he has a great straight left hand. But Venado has more of an assortment of punch selection than Robesi. Robesi just throws the straight left hand. I mean, he does things with the lead hand, but it's all in relation to setting up that straight left hand. And it's a great punch he has, but Venado has a more diverse punch selection, but at the same time, if that guy's got that pop shot at long range, that straight line, ding, he can dictate range from there, and all those you can't jump in with uppercuts and hooks the way Venado likes to spring up and come up with hooks and up. He'll keep walking into that pop shot, and it'll force him to reset. So maybe Robesi beats him, but I like that fight. I think Inoue can move up to 26 and beat either one of them. I think Inoue, the real tough fight out there for Inoue isn't at 22 or 26. I think Navarrete at 30s, it's a very tough fight for Inoue. I'd probably still give him the edge, but after what Navarrete showed me against Valdez, he might be able to beat the monster because he's a much more natural 130 pounder, and he's got some underrated skills and ranginess himself. And he can punch hard. I would love to see that fight in the next two years or so. So Weedy Gonzalez, thank you, Weedy, for being in the chat as always. Weedy says, Weedy Gonzalez says, I want to see William Zepeda fight someone with a decent name. Well, William Zepeda had a hell of a performance. Beat up a long-in-the-tooth Mercito Hesta. I mean, beat him down. That was tough to watch. He landed as I'm tempted to say William Zepeda over the weekend landed as much punches in 5.5 rounds as I've ever seen in 5.5 rounds. De La Hoya Gotti? Maybe but De La Hoya didn't. William Zepeda landed more punches. Not thrown. Landed more punches per round against Mercito Hesta over the weekend than some lightweights like Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson even throw punches per round. Those guys in a good round will get up to 50 punches thrown. He landed 50 punches a round against Hesta through all 5 rounds. So that was a terrible beatdown, and huge credit to Hesta, who showed incredible punch resistance and heart. I mean, it was getting scary. It was starting to look like he was going to go to like Maxime Dadashev, that this man was going to allow himself to take punishment to the point of death before he literally hit the canvas, because that's what Maxime Dadashev did. I'll always say that as a very huge respect and compliment to Maxime Dadashev and professional fighters. Maxime Dadashev proved that some fighters will die before they hit the canvas. Maxime Dadashev never was knocked down the night he died. Think about that. And that's what Mercito Hesta was starting to look like he was willing to die in the ring. And he didn't need to do that. And thank God the doctors and the referee in the corner didn't let him do that. But he's an absolute Filipino warrior for even having that in him, for willing to do that, and I commend him for it. I'm just so happy it didn't go into the championship rounds where that brain damage really starts to take effect. It got stopped in the 6th. Zepeda's already ducked Shakur Stevenson. He's a very good lightweight. He's a good lightweight. I saw some people on Twitter saying he beats Devin Haney, he beats Tank Davis. I'll take that bet. I mean, I don't bet on fights because it's unprofessional, but figuratively speaking, I would take that bet all day. Tank Davis beats Zepeda. He has no defense. You have to be a complete fighter. It's great that he's an excellent combination puncher if you stay in front of him. But he has no defense. Hesta walked him into plenty of bombs, and he showed a chin. But I've seen Zepeda go down early in fights being defensively reckless. About a year or two ago in Mexico, he went down in the first round being reckless. If Mercito Hesta could walk him into bombs in his 30s, a man who's never been world champion, what do you think Gervonta Davis, a legit, elite fighter, would do to him with his counterpunching? He'd walk him into bombs and stop him. I feel confident in saying that. But despite that, Zepeda is a good fighter in his own right, excellent combination puncher. But has no defense, and because he has no defense, the true elite fighters, the complete fighters like Stevenson or Davis or Haney, they would beat him. And I even think Isaac Cruz could beat him, because Isaac Cruz has a better defense than him. Isaac Cruz doesn't take as many punches as Zepeda. He tucks his chin better, and he covers up in the high guard better. Zepeda started moving his head, started bending down behind his jab, so I noticed that and give him credit for that. That's craft and skill. But ultimately, he's trying to exchange and bang. And if he's going to exchange and bang with Cruz, and I know Cruz is 5 inches shorter than him, but Cruz keeps his chin tucked better, has a better high guard, and he's a little bit quicker. I think Zepeda has some nice snap and speed on his shots if you let him throw 4, 5, or 6 at a time. But he's kind of slow with that initial offense. If he pins you there and can run his combinations, the more punches he starts throwing, it becomes like an avalanche. They start getting more snap on him. They get more speed on him. He places them better. In the beginning of his combination, he's throwing up top, and then boom, he places one. But you got it. But that's only if you allow him to get off those combinations. Those guys wouldn't. They would sharpshoot him in between all that offense, and he defensively wouldn't have the answers to get out of the way of it, in my opinion. With Cruz is just a little bit quicker than him and throws his punches a little bit more compact than him. But maybe Zepeda would be too big and would overwhelm Cruz. He would be the bigger man and would win a war. So we'll see. But Zepeda's got to fight somebody at this point. I don't know what's the realistic fight out there for him. Golden Boy's not going to want to send him over to PBC or Top Rank, so I don't know what's really out there for him on the Golden Boy side of things. Kid Austin's too young. I wouldn't put Kid Austin in there with him just yet. Zepeda's 27 in his prime. He's a grown man. Kid Austin is kid. He's Kid Austin. He's not grown man Austin just yet, so I wouldn't make that fight yet. So we'll see. Cruz got no neck. His chin is naturally tucked, says Weedy Gonzalez. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Yawada says Bud contractually owes Spence a rematch. That's it. Bud is the A side, and he controls the weight to be fought at, not Spence. Bud destroyed Spence, and a rematch is a waste of time. 100 facts. I don't have a huge problem. I don't have a problem with anything he said. So yeah. Documented facts: should Haney give up his belts if he moves up in weight? Ultimately, he will. If he is at 140 for good, and I suspect he is because lightweight was getting real tough on his body, then regardless of whether the WBC, IBF, WBA, WBO strip him now or strip him later, if his days are done at 135, those belts are going to get freed up at some point. He's not going to be able to have them forever campaigning at 140. And by the way, to close on that whole Haney-Stevenson thing, I don't think Devin Haney ducked Shakur Stevenson, and I don't think Shakur Stevenson bitched out by not accepting 25%. I think those two, both of them, I'm not blaming one or the other, engaged, whether they meant to even or not, in a PR war, in political theater. Shakur, you knew Devin's moving up to 140. Devin, you knew you were moving up to 140. So, you know what I mean? Shakur, you know he's moving up to 140 because he can't make the weight anymore, not because he's ducking you or Tank or anybody. And then Devin, you know he's not going to take 25%. So you guys are both trying to win like a PR war. And then for the point about the WBC stuff, like I offered you 25%. That's the WBC mandatory bid. 75-25, right? You want Frank Martin to accept the short end of the stick. Now you're looking like a hypocrite. You want Frank Martin to accept the short end of the stick, but you won't accept the short end of the stick to fight me, the champion? Oh, but I get it. And that looks good or whatever. But then if that is what the WBC is going to enforce, then Stevenson did the next fair thing. Him and Jay Prince went to the WBC, said, hey, mediate this thing. What do they call it in appraise? Be an appraiser. Appraise this thing. What's the right percentage? We want 50-50. Remember in Scarface? Come on, Mel. You go high, I go low. Come on, Mel. That's what he was doing. 25%, you go low. No, 50-50. WBC, we want 50-50. You go high. And if they're both really serious about making a fight, that's where the real negotiation starts to take place. Okay? You're not getting 50. I'm not taking 25. Where's the middle? And that's not happening. They're not even entertaining those talks because Devin's going to 140 and Shakur knows he's going to 140 and he's not even on Top Rank for the next fight. It's all political theater, guys. So I don't really blame either one of them that much, but I see through the bullshit. And like I've said, realistically, that fight isn't as big as it needs to be yet anyways. It's a tougher fight to sell. Neither one is a pay-per-view star yet. There hasn't been years of bad blood. There's years of bad blood between Tank and Devin. There's years of bad blood between T.O. and Devin. There's sparring stories that have conflicting narratives that need to get settled in the ring and all this. Shakur and Devin were always friends, always friendly with each other, and there's no knockout potentially in that fight. T.O. or Tank fighting Devin or Shakur, a knockout could happen. So you're not getting a knockout. There hasn't been years of... The bad blood just started. The build-up, what you really just saw between Devin and Shakur is the build-up to that fight has officially kicked off now. But yeah, they weren't about to fight each other because it's not time yet. It's not time. I am not of the Mayweather-Pacquiao, Spence Crawford persuasion. I do not want fights to over-marinate. I do not want Devin and Shakur to talk shit for 6 years and then fight each other in their 30s at 154 or one. No, I want it to happen sooner than later. But I'm also realistic about some of the business in boxing, and I just know that fight deserves to be a super fight, deserves to be a summit meeting. maybe when it's time, they'll be fighting over who's number one pound for pound instead of Devin's lightweight belts. So I think that fight will happen in time, but I think those other fights with Davis, with Tio, are more ready to go. They're sooner to being ready to take out the oven than Devin and Shakur. And they've just kind of engaged in political theater. So there you go. There you go. I'm sure that won't make... If Devin or Shakur is listening, or their teams, neither one are going to be happy with me. So be it. That's the truth. Let me see here. What else do I got to touch on? Yeah, Cardenas got that. Oh, Big Bang Zhang. Big Bang Zhang with that rematch with Joe Joyce. Can the big man from China pull it off twice? That was a big upset. He wasn't supposed to win that fight. Was Joe Joyce really that terrible, or did he just have an awful night against Big Bang Zhang, or did he get exposed? Did he finally fight somebody who hit hard enough to make him actually have to pay for having a horrible defense? Did he finally just run into somebody who punched hard enough to make him pay for not having a horrible defense? That might be it. Or did he have a horrible night and Zhang had the night of his life and things will go back to script Saturday night? I don't know. I'm going to call the round by round for it, though, that's for sure. I will be doing the round by round. Trying to think what else happened over the weekend, though. Yeah. I told you guys Canelo softened up once he had his wife and daughter. I saw a change in him. You saw it in the All Access. They mentioned, I said it here on these lives, and when they showed it on the All Access, I saw that. Proud of him. It's great to become champion and to move up weight classes, but I'm just as proud of him for maturing as a man and becoming more humble. I think that same. I mentioned the same thing with Clarissa Shields once. When Clarissa's more humble now than when she turned pro, coming out with the gold medals. When she first turned pro, she was difficult to kind of approach and interview, and then the more she succeeded, the happier it made her. Instead of, I know she still has that chip on her shoulder. She like, after the fight, she goes on for 4 or 5 weeks pulling every receipt she can, trying to scrounge up every flower she can from everybody. If you didn't give her a flower, she's on your neck saying, "Give me one. Where's my flowers, motherfucker?" So I get it. But her and Canelo, I've seen mature as people, and I'm just as proud of them for that as I am for being first ballot Hall of Famer, great fighters, and all of that. I got a super chat from my man Matt Borgensen. Thank you, Matt. Matt said, personally, there are plenty of fights that Shakur can score right now that isn't Devin Haney anyways. Someone like Zepeda would be a super good after this De Los Santos fight. I agree with you. Zepeda has turned down Shakur already. That's a fact. But that doesn't mean I'm not of this belief that, you turned down the fight, we're never going and look in your direction again. You turned it down, hit you up in 12 months, 10 months, see if we'll try again. You turn it down, if we're still in the same weight class, I'll send you another offer 10 months later. And if you're that content to just keep ducking me, then the whole world will know it. But I think Zepeda would be a perfect fight for Shakur stylistically, because Zepeda is going to give him the pace, the style that allows him to be exciting, to get off. Zepeda will force it to be a fight. He'll come forward and throw combinations. And if Shakur tries to coast his way through the fight like he did Nakatia and just pop shot, Zepeda can try to overwhelm him through sheer volume. I don't think Shakur would allow that to happen. I think what you'd see happen is like Leo Santa Cruz with Tank. Tank only likes to throw 20 to 30 punches around. But when he fought Leo Santa Cruz, he averaged over 50 punches around because Santa Cruz gave him no other choice. Relentless Mexican fighter with a high punch output. So Shakur, I think, he kind of did this with Yoshino, because Yoshino was a come-forward Japanese fighter who wouldn't take a step back. I think Zepeda would produce a very entertaining performance out of Shakur. De Los Santos is kind of rangy. Despite being a hard puncher, he actually likes to use his legs and circle the ring. He's kind of unorthodox. He's got a good straight left hand. He's kind of explosive and dangerous. But there's levels to this, and Shakur's craft and skill is notches above De Los Santos, and I expect him to take care of De Los Santos. I don't know if he could get Zepeda after. I don't know if Golden Boy would want to feed him. Shakur is not Tank. If you're Golden Boy, you feed Zepeda to Tank before you'd feed him to Shakur because you're going to get a big pay-per-view payday out of it. With Shakur, you might make $1 million fighting him. With Tank, you might make $5 million fighting him. Maybe more if the Mexican fans support the pay-per-view. So that's Shakur's issue right now. Shakur is the new Terence Crawford. He's the guy that everyone thinks is the best, but isn't going to get the opportunities for the foreseeable future to prove it. I'll let the silence of that settle in for a moment, because that's what we're headed for right now. It's kind of poetic, isn't it? Because Shakur has always been so close with Andre Ward and Terence Crawford. And Andre Ward and Terence Crawford, at the end of the day, got to solidify themselves as all-time greats. But they had to suffer through long periods of being frozen out of the business of boxing. And ironic enough, Shakur might be going down the same path that Dre and Terence did, where he'll get there. He'll inevitably get to prove himself as an all-time great, but he's going to have to deal with a lot of sidestepping and a lot of business and a lot of politics getting in the way of the opportunities he wishes to have and deserves. So we'll see. We'll see. I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case. I'm pulling for all fighters to get the opportunities they deserve, from Shakur to Boots Ennis, to David Benavidez and David Morrell, both Davids. I want all those guys, because I know that I'll borrow a line from Leonard Ellerby. Hey, they could fight their ass off. And I want to see them get the opportunities. I know they can do it. I know they can fight with the best. They just need the opportunity to do it. So Hitchens versus Zepeda, that's a good fight. Zepeda would move up to 40. Hitchens is going to get his heart tested, because I don't doubt that Hitchens doesn't have the skill, the speed, the length, the pedigree from the amateurs to handle an aggressive fighter like Zepeda. But if he doesn't have a great chin, if he doesn't have great condition, if any of the other stuff, chin, stamina, heart, isn't up to par, Zepeda could beat him, because Zepeda has those things. The chin, I've seen him down, but I'm sure he has a solid chin. Hesta hit him with some good shots, and he walked right through him. I won't hold that flash knockdown from a year or two ago against him too much. 2 years ago, I think it was, in Mexico. But he has great stamina, great heart. He's going to come forward and fight. He's not afraid to get hit. But if Hitchens has those things as well, in addition to being the faster, longer, probably more talented fighter, then Richardson Hitchens would beat Zepeda. But we'll see. Where do I rank Zepeda in the lightweight rankings? Top 10. Top 10, I think. Well, now that Haney's moved up, my top 5 my top 4 would definitely be number 1. If it's official that Haney has moved up, I think number 1 at lightweight is either Lomachenko or Tank Davis. I'll give the edge to Davis because Loma didn't get the nod. I thought he may have pulled it out against Haney. A lot of people thought he did, but he didn't get the nod. Haney retained the title, so he's still technically coming off a loss. And it wasn't a robbery. It wasn't the kind of fight for Lomachenko where you could say he was robbed. It was very close, and he didn't get the nod. So I'd be tempted to put Tank at number 1 right now at lightweight, Lomachenko number 2, Stevenson number 3, Frank Martin number 4. And then after that, Zepeda could be as high as 5. It could be Isaac Cruz at 5. It could be Zepeda at 5. Those are the first 2 guys that come to mind at lightweight at being at number 5. Other lightweights, Jermaine Ortiz, Keyshawn Davis is on the rise. A few others, so we'll see. So, let's see. Weedy Gonzalez says Lomachenko waits too long to start fighting like he did against Tio. He started quicker against Haney, but Haney just got the better of him in the first 6 rounds. And then he got the better of Haney in the second 6 rounds, and the judges scored it how they did. But I think part of what happened with Haney was Loma comes on strong in the second half, and I think that weight started to get to Haney a little bit, and that's where draining yourself down, even when you're real young like Devin, that's where it'll affect you in the second half of the fight. Matt Borgensen, thank you for the super chat, said, is Kermel Moulton fighting on the Canelo versus Jermell undercard? What do you think of him? Overhyped or the next superstar, like Floyd says? I think he's definitely closer to being the next superstar than he is overhyped. Next superstar is saying a lot. But if I had to go one direction or the other, I'm leaning more towards he's a next superstar than he is a hype job, for sure. I think Jermell has great talent. Even that national fight he lost to Shakur Stevenson's cousin, Moises, I was more impressed with Jermell in defeat. He still looked to me like the better professional prospect. I'm high on him. I'm very high on him. I think Jermell, Robert Merriweather, Abdullah Mason's already pro, so he's a little ahead of those guys. Jaleel Hackett, too. Even Mayweather Promotions, they're struggling to get their prospects the activity they need to develop. But they got some really good prospects in Robert Merriweather, Jermell Morton, and Dorian Kahn. We haven't been seeing or hearing about him. He's only 2-0, but Dorian Kahn is an excellent talent. And Jaleel Hackett is an excellent prospect, too. They got to get these guys more dates. They got to. I like Leonard Ellerby, but Leonard does got to get those guys some more dates. He's got some excellent prospects, and he's got to get them developed. They could really fight some of those guys. Merriweather, Dorian Kahn, Jermell Morton, and Jaleel Hackett. They're all really good prospects. You gotta get them active. But I think Jermell Morton is an exceptional blue chip prospect. I think I'll say this: he'll be world champion. Now, can he be the next superstar? That's a lot to hope and ask for. We'll see. But he'll definitely be a world champion, will Jermell Morton. I don't know if he is debuting on the Canelo Charlo card. That's long been said. But Jaleel Hackett was supposed to fight on a lot of tank cards only for the week of the fight to get there and for him to find out he's not fighting. That happens a lot on some of these PBC cards. So we'll see. I hope he does debut. That'd be the perfect opportunity for him to debut on, would be on that card. But, we'll see. I see a lot of people asking me about Andy Cruz in the chat. I like Andy Cruz. I like that he's working with Bozy Ennis on fighting on the inside. That's what he needs to round out his game. We know he's excellent on the outside. He's got great radar on the outside, great hand speed on the outside, got tricks and special effects. But in this pro game, if you don't want to come out and stumble like Lomachenko did with Salido, like Robeisy Ramirez did in his first professional fight. He lost his first pro fight, and these are two-time gold medalists. Take your time with Bozy Ennis. Work on things that you didn't do comfortably in the amateurs. Fight on the inside, sitting down on punches. Don't go straight back. Don't go straight back and rely on your legs and your reflexes and athleticism to pop shot on the outside, then go straight back. Because Andy Cruz used to do that. He used to pull straight back and kind of show off, the guy's punches fell short. And then he'd hold his glove up to the judges saying, I pop shotted him and made him miss, made him hit nothing but air and fall short. Can't do that in the pros. And he didn't do that against Burgos. So, look, we know from watching Andy Cruz in the Olympics, he has all the speed and talent in the world. He's got to make that transition. Even though he's only 26, he's an old dog learning new tricks because 26 is old to turn professional. That's a long time you've been used to fighting 3 rounds and relying on your amateur Olympic style. So he's got to shed some skin. Take your time. Take about 10 to 15 fights, 10 fights, and then you could get into a title fight soon because of all that amateur. He'll be fine. Andy Cruz will be fine. Will he be able to be as great in the pros as he was as being one of the all-time amateur fighters? We'll see. But he'll be fine. He'll have success in the pros. He's a excellent talent, but everything I just said is true too. So we'll see. Did the Rams surprise me against the Niners? A little. The Niners could have won that game by a bigger score. I'm just happy the Niners got the win. Got to see about Brock Purdy throwing the ball down the field. Brock is better than Jimmy ever was, I think, because his escapability, his mobility. But like Jimmy, there's a little bit of a question mark, especially coming off that elbow tear he had against the Eagles in the NFC title game. A little bit of question mark, can he throw it 30-plus yards down the field? Unlike Jimmy even struggled beyond 20 yards. He could throw it 20, 25 yards, but once you get to 30 to 40, let's see if Purdy can do that. But outside of that, he's accurate. He's got great. He reads defense as well, and I love his escapability. His escapability is such a huge upgrade over Jimmy G. Sorry, chat. I know it's a boxing live, but if you ask me about the 49ers, I'm going to have to talk about the 49ers for a second. Charles N says start Aiden O'Connell. They might have to start Aiden O'Connell, man, but give Jimmy another week. They were supposed to lose that game in Buffalo. I'll be covering Monday. I get to cover Monday Night Football for the first time ever, chat. I am credentialed for Monday night's game at Allegiant, Raiders versus Steelers. Your boy will be there in the building. I'll be in the locker room talking to Jimmy G after the win or after the loss. So holla at your boy. But yeah. Jesus says Niners schedule gets difficult after the Cardinals. That's all right. If they handle their business, they could beat anybody. And I want to see if the 49ers, I'm sorry, boxing fans, I just got to digress for a second. The 49ers, they did some restructuring with their big players. They got $40 million of cap space this year. They should make another splash at the deadline like they did last year getting Christian McCaffrey. You got all that. You got $40 million open right now, and it's not going to be there 2 years from now because you got to pay Ayuk, Warner, Boza, Debo, McCaffrey, etc., etc. So the Niners should make another deadline splash like they did last year. Maybe hit up the Panthers again and get Brian Burns this year. Get that final piece to get us over the top. Go Niners. Dweedy Gonzalez said, don't get lost in Jimmy G's eyes. I won't. But, chat, anything else? I see we're down to about 370 people here. Did I miss anything? Is there any topics in boxing last week or heading into this week you feel like I need to touch? Otherwise, it's been fun. It's been over an hour. We've had a good time. Fuck Your Feelings said, I won money off the Cowboys, Chiefs, and San Francisco. I just need Cleveland to win tonight. Who's Cleveland playing? The Steelers? If they're playing the Steelers, I think Cleveland could win that game. Nick Chubb might be the best running back. My dog won't shut up. I'm sorry. Deshaun Watson, he may love his massages, but he's a pretty good quarterback. He's got Amari Cooper. They beat the shit out of the Bengals in week 1. I won't be surprised if the Browns go to 2-0. Shout out to my man Showtime Sean Porter, my brother. He loves his Browns, so I got some love for the Browns because of Sean and Carson. What's my thoughts on... Jesus M said Yokasta Valle versus Estrada must happen ASAP. It does. I want to see that fight already. Problem is the promotional stuff. Sinisa she's with Top Rank. Yokasta Valle's with Golden Boy. I don't know if Golden Boy wants to do business with Estrada. I know Estrada wants to do the fight, but that would probably mean they have to fight on ESPN. Does Golden Boy want to give Estrada a career boost by beating a rival and send their fighter over to a rival network with a girl that left them? I don't know. We'll see. They should step out of the way. Golden Boy should step out of the way and just let the fighters fight and let that fight happen. I hope it happens. I think Estrada would beat Yokasta Valle. Estrada's a very good fighter. Junto Nakatani fought today, and Taraji. I saw Junto. I like Junto Nakatani. I actually, while I got you, speaking of how much I got respect for Junto Nakatani, check this out. Hold on. My man Dice K, he actually referenced me in this article about Junto Nakatani. My man Dice K from Japan, Yahoo Japan, also covers the Yankees. Great Japanese reporter in boxing. Love the man, great man. He gets my thoughts on these fights in Japan, and I predicted Nakatani to win that fight by stoppage, to do it better than Estrada did, and he did. I would love to see Nakatani fight Ioka next in Japan. That would be a unification. That would be a huge fight in Japan. Apparently, Ioka is hesitant on giving the young man a shot, kind of like Canelo and Benavidez. Doesn't know if he wants to give his fellow Japanese guy, young guy, taller guy, a shot. But I'd love to see that fight. I'd love to see Junto. I think Junto Nakatani is the best fighter in that division. He needs to make use of his height better. He loves his left hand. He has one of the best left hands in boxing in that southpaw stance. But he's so tall use that jab a little bit more. He has a jab, he uses it, but his defense, he still gets hit a little bit too much. If he wants to make that he's excellent. But if he wants to make that final jump from excellent to elite, the defense tighten up a little bit and use your height with that jab a little bit more. Piston jab. Don't just use it to range find and set up that left hand bomb to the body and to the head. Range find. He lets guys in, and because he's comfortable. He's a tall guy who's comfortable on the inside. He likes his uppercuts. But no, make them earn that. Make them walk behind that jab. Make them eat that jab on their way in more and more. And then if they get past that jab, they could walk into the uppercut and the right hook and all that. But I like Nakatani. He's my favorite style. I love boxer punchers. He's a boxer puncher. Work on the boxer part of that a little bit, the jab and the defense, and you can make that final jump from excellent to elite. But I suspect that he's the best fighter in that division, that he could beat Ioka and Estrada. He'd eat a lot of punches. They would be wars. Those are very extremely tough fights for him, but I think he's younger, fresher than those guys, bigger than those guys, and I think he could beat those guys. I just don't know if they'll get in the ring with him next, so we'll see. I have a super chat from my man Jameson Childress. Thank you, brother. The cousin of Josh Childress said, "What's your opinion on thoughts on AJ Wilder? Do I think it'll ever happen?" Ooh, do I think it'll ever happen? Like, if you actually put a gun to my head and my life depended on it, I would say yes. I'd be very nervous. I would hope my brains don't go flying out and I pick the wrong answer. But I'd be nervous. I'd pick yes. That phrase comes from Larry Merchant, by the way. If someone would ask Larry Merchant who does he think's going to win the fight, he'd go, gun to my head, this guy. I think it will happen. I think it will happen. And I think Wilder will win, but we'll see. Wilder, I just don't know what's left of his chin. Helenius didn't hit him, so we don't know what his punch resistance is like since the Fury Wars. Helenius never hit him, so I don't know what his chin's like. If he's got the same chin, he'll be all right. He'll beat Joshua. He could maybe even beat Usyk if he has the same chin, because he could hold up to 6 or 7 rounds of punishment from Usyk before he finally lands one right-hand bomb that could end the fight or lead to the end of the fight. But if Wilder's chin isn't the same, he ain't beating Joshua or Usyk. So we'll see. I think Joshua, even though Wilder knocked out Helenius in 1 round, it took Joshua 6 or 7 rounds. Joshua, he still showed at times some good skills in that fight, especially in the knockout, because he changed the levels on his jab, and then it set up the straight right hand, and he knocked Helenius clean out. But one thing that was disconcerting from Joshua, besides the fact that it took him 6 or 7 rounds to beat a fighter Wilder got rid of in 2 minutes, is that he looks small compared to Helenius. And Helenius gives us someone to compare both fighters from. Wilder was actually a little bit bigger than Helenius, or they were just about the same size. Joshua was noticeably smaller than Helenius, which now tells us Joshua's smaller than Wilder. So he's smaller than Wilder. He's not as athletic as Wilder. He's not as long as Wilder. And not as confident as Wilder. He has better technical skills than Wilder. Maybe, even though Joshua's punch resistance has never been the best, maybe his is a little bit better than Wilder's after the Fury Wars, but that might not be the case. We don't know. That's a total question mark with Deontay Wilder right now. But based on the fact that Wilder is longer and more athletic than Joshua, and the fact that Joshua looked small compared to Helenius and Wilder looked a little bigger than Helenius, that makes me think the bigger, more athletic, more confident guy is going to get the bomb off first. He's going to be more He's going to be more confident in throwing it, and he's going to be longer and a little bit faster than the stiffer, smaller guy at getting it off at long range and landing it. But that being said, I could still see Wilder's technical flaws letting him down, and Joshua taking his time, navigating things, keeping his hands up, bringing his hands back to his chin, and then it being a very tense fight with very little action until Joshua steps into the right range and lands on Wilder, who doesn't have a great defense, and knocks Wilder out. That could happen too. Or it could be a great fight where both guys go down. But put a gun to my head, I think it does happen, and I do favor Wilder. But I'd be awfully nervous about both predictions. It happening in the first place and Wilder winning. So, EPL Banter, thank you for the super chat, brother. Said, what's up, bro? What do you think of the 140 division now with Haney and T.O. both there? I think you named the two names that got to mix it up. That's the fight to be made in the 140-pound division. I like Devin fighting Regis first. Go ahead and build that bad boy up. Make it a unification. Make it WBC, WBO, Ring Magazine, Lineal, Bad Blood, years in the making. They were both lightweight champion. They talked a bunch of shit as lightweights. I kicked your ass in sparring. No, I almost stopped you in sparring. I'm the future of boxing. No, I'm the future of boxing. My dad doesn't like your dad. Your dad doesn't like my dad. All of that. Let Devin handle his business in San Francisco December. Get that green belt, because the green belt's the glamour belt, but T.O.'s got the belt. He's considered the champ after beating Josh Taylor. So handle your business, Devin, against Regis. T.O., stay busy. Get a fight in. Fight Barboza. Fight someone. Fight Ramirez. Jose Ramirez. Fight Barboza. Fight somebody. Defend your belt. Handle your business. Devin, handle your business in December in the Bay. And then used to meet each other up next summer, next spring, whenever you feel comfortable, and fight on pay-per-view. Because if Haney and Lomachenko at MGM Grand, if Haney and Lomachenko can sell out the MGM Grand Garden Arena and fight on ESPN pay-per-view, then I think T.O. and Devin could do it and take it to another level by talking the mad shit to each other, with a great build-up, with great contrasting styles, two American fighters with two different styles, two different backgrounds, lots of athleticism and hand speed on both sides. One's a better boxer, one's a better puncher. That's what I think at 140. I mean, Subriel Matias, that's cool. Gary Antoine Russell, he's on the rise. I like him. Brandon Lee is still on the rise. I like him too. Ryan Garcia's moving up. Rolly has a belt. That's all cool. But this division's about the showdown between Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez. That's what 140 is all about. And the winner of that fight, they hold a lot more leverage against the star lightweights, Davis and Stevenson. You know, right now, if Tio and Devin really wanted they had all the freedom in the world to call Al Heyman, sign with PBC, they'd have to accept a much lower percentage than they'd wind up accepting if they let the next year play out, fight each other on pay-per-view. The winner of that fight's going to be entitled to a bigger chunk against a potential big fight against Tank on pay-per-view. They don't got to go there with no leverage. They go there as a champion at 140, and after fighting each other on pay-per-view, a bump in their box office appeal. So that's what I think of 140. I think that Haney and Tio should be headed on a collision course. I would be arriving to the arena so excited to see them fight. So excited. I give the edge to Haney, by the way. That would be my early pick because styles make fights to a degree, and Tio's a counterpuncher, and Tio's not as hot doesn't look as hot when you're moving away from him, making him cut range. He's not as good on the front foot as he is when someone's coming to him, let him be counterpuncher. He'd have to make some adjustments to his style to cut the distance against Devin and force the exchanges. Because if he fights like he does against Sandor Martin and Kambosos, where guys moving away from him, moving in and out, moving away, giving him lateral movement, he struggled mightily against that wrinkle in their games. He's young enough to still find some adjustments and improve his game. But if he doesn't, I think Haney would beat him by decision. So you be around fighters. I have never seen you in shape, says Private. Hold on. That's for you, big dog. Hold on. What was your name? Pravin Modi. Did you buy tickets to the gun show? Were you talking about someone not being in shape? Hold on. Were you talking about someone not being in shape, brother? Huh? What you gonna do, brother? All right. Were you talking about someone not being in shape? I just ran 5 miles today before the live. That's why the hair's all messed up and not neatly pressed. Get on somewhere, Pravin. Rory Long Corey said Haney versus Tio would be a great fight. I don't have a clue who I would actually pick to win. Yeah, that's what would make it a great fight. Malcolm Baldwin said haircut. So I beat them on the muscle. First they attacked it. These guys are so gay. And that's okay that you're gay. That's okay that you're gay, Malcolm Baldwin and Pravin Modi. This is an acceptable chat. We allow people from everywhere here. But to continue talking about my muscles and my hair and what's next? Are you going to talk about my facial features? Like, you know what? If you're going to be gay, compliment me. You know, make me feel good about myself instead of trying to tear a brother down. You know, stop all that. But that's okay. You guys are more than welcome to stick around. We love you here in the chat. You know, we love everybody. So yes. But all right, chat. I think that's about it. I think we're getting off the rails a little bit here now. You know, I got a dentist appointment. Let me get my teeth right before they start talking about my teeth. That's the next thing, I'm sure. But thank you everybody for being in here. How do you see Haney versus Regis? I think Haney wins that fight. Regis is gonna be the hardest puncher Devin's ever fought. And if you're a Regis fan, there's some hope there because Devin against Southpaws, Jojo Diaz and Lomachenko, had a hard time getting out of the way of left hands. And Regis's left hand is powerful. If he could land that left hand at the same rate as flush as Jojo and Loma did, he's in business. But I don't think he's gonna land it at the same rate they do. I think Devin's getting better at 24 and being in a new weight class where his legs are gonna be fresher for all 12. And fresh off going 12 with a Hall of Famer and Lomachenko, that's gonna raise his mind and his IQ and his skills, I think, at 24, at a stage in your career where those fights help you develop and get better. So I think Haney is going to take care of Prograis, 10-2, 118, 110. But we'll see. I'll probably be in San Francisco for that fight. But I have to cover the Raiders the next day, so I won't be able to stick around and watch the Niners play the Seahawks the next day, which sucks. But it's okay. There are worse things in this world. Raider Reaper said, you missed my super chat earlier, bruh. Where's it at, Raider Reaper? I'm sorry. Hold on, Raider Reaper. Where's Raider Reaper's super chat? Wait. Raider Reaper. Got you, Raider Reaper. Raider Reaper, and this will be the final super chat of the chat. You guys have been awesome. Raider Reaper said, more comp, Tank versus Bud or Canelo versus Bud? What's more competitive? Canelo and Bud. I don't think Tank's competitive with Terence. Tank's too little. You might say, well, dude, how could you say Tank's too little for Crawford, but Crawford's not too little for Canelo? Canelo's 5'8" with short arms. Crawford is the same height as him and has long arms. Tank is not the same height and does not have as long as arms as Crawford. So, you know, even that's one thing in Crawford's favor if he moves up 21 pounds. He's still longer than Canelo, and length matters a lot in elite level boxing. Because guys know how to make use of every inch they got. And I won't say pause. I'll acknowledge that. It could have been said, but I'm not going to say it. But they, so, no, I think Bud, I think Tank, yeah, he's too little for Terence. He doesn't have the length. Terence's length would give Davis nightmares, I think. Davis doesn't like to throw a whole lot of punches. He's not going to create openings off combinations or off his jab. He's not going to double up his jab, draw something out, and create a whole lot. He's going to pick you apart. He's better as a counterpuncher. And Terence is very long, has a much better jab than Tank. He would out-jab Tank from the start and control distance. And anything Tank would try to... Because he put the jab on him and hold him at the end of his arms... He would see anything Tank's trying to get by it and load up. I mean, maybe Tank could get some. I mean, Tank's a great little fighter in his own right, but I just think I think Crawford would stand a better chance beating Canelo than Tank would beating Crawford. That's my take. So yeah, but yes, chat, you guys are awesome. Have a great. Oh wait. Wait. I got another super chat. Hold on. Marky Dan, looking way ahead in the future. Marky Dan 12-3 says, Monster, meaning Inoue, Monster Inoue versus Kermel Morton in 2 years? Who you got? That fight is way more realistic than Monster versus Tank. Oh, well, Kermel Morton, 2 years, brother. Come on. I mean, I know Kermel's a young phenom, a blue chipper in his own right. Hand speed, punching power. He's got everything going for him, but No, let the young man live. Let him develop. Let him get his feet wet. I mean, Floyd Mayweather at 21 fought an aged Gennaro Chinico Hernandez. He didn't. You got to take your time. There's just no way Jermell Morton should be fighting Inoue in 2 years. Even if by some miracle he'd be ready to actually win that fight, I just wouldn't put him in there with the monster in 2 years. But you're the first person, Marky Dan, to bring up that fight, and I won't be surprised if 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, 3 to 5 years from now, people start talking about wanting to see that fight. But 2 years, no, I think that's just too much, man. That's too much to put on Jermell. He's not going from losing razor close decisions in the amateurs to beating maybe the best fighter in the world pound for pound in Inoue. That's just unrealistic hype and expectations on Jermell Morton. Jermell Morton's going to be a world champion. I don't hesitate in saying that. But fighting the monster Inoue in 2 years, let's give him some time to develop and get his feet wet in the pros. But thank you for the super chat, Marky Dan. And to your credit, you are the first person to ever mention Jermell against Monster. And I feel like you're way early in that, but a couple years from now, that won't sound so crazy. So yeah. But why are people not talking about Zaquin Moses? Because Zaquin Moses, the cousin of Shakur Stevenson, did beat Jermell Morton in the finals of their tournament. But it was one of those fights where it was obvious that he's winning this fight in the amateurs, but I don't think if this was a 4 or 6 round professional fight, I don't think he'd beat Jermell Morton. That's what I took away from that fight. I still came away more impressed with Morton. But credit to Moises for beating him. I think Moises only had 16 or 17 amateur fights, and he beat the best fighter in the world, or at least in the country, in his division. So shout out to Moises. I'm not hating on the young teenager, but I do think Jermell will be the better pro. Archie Moore versus Evander Holyfield. Ooh, Evander. I'd give the edge to Evander, but Archie Moore was amazing. Archie Moore was so crafty with his right hand, and was just a great fighter. One of the all-time greats. But Evander Holyfield, I give him the edge. So, but all right, chat. I hope everyone has a good rest of the day. I got to get to the dentist. Thank you, everybody. This Saturday, we got Big Bang Zhang versus Joe Joyce. I'll be doing Fight Take this week, probably with my man Hans, probably with my man Brendan Taylor from True School Sports at some point during the week. We got to cook up some topics to talk about. If there's any major news that drops during the week, you could expect me to go live with it and talk about it during the week. But barring that, I'll see you guys Saturday night for Big Bang Zhang against Joe Joyce, the rematch. Thank you for everyone who came with the super chats. Thank you for everyone else in the chat, all the regulars, all the newcomers, even joking around with some of the haters. I don't even like using the word haters. You guys came in, talked some shit, had some fun, threw some bullets my way. I threw them back. Please come back. Happy to have you. You can keep throwing your bullets. I'll keep throwing them back, and we'll keep rocking. But God bless everybody. Everyone have a great rest of their Monday. Let's start this week off right. And everybody take care. Peace out. I don't even feel good with the shadow boxing.